Morning, everyone. Sorry for the late start. This is a jam-packed morning. Let's get going. All right. Last night's session, a bit choppy. You can see the S&P, the Nasdaq was kind of drifting down pretty much the whole day into the close. Obviously, if you've been paying attention at all, we saw after hours, we saw two huge beats, one out of Facebook and then the next one out of Apple. Really just, I mean, the expectations for Facebook, I think, were quite high, so the reaction to the beat was somewhat muted. But Apple's expectations were quite low, and they really just beat on all fronts outside of the iPad numbers. So really saw a big explosion to the upside there, about 8% after hours, which is obviously driving the S&P index this morning, about 5% of that component being Apple, really taking it to the upside. We did have AT&T and Amgen that fell after worse than expected earnings, but we had Boeing and Delta that kind of helped balance that out in the Dow, and obviously pushed the transport index to record highs, which is definitely market bullish. We also had new home sales data that was happening earlier in the U.S. session. It was a bit shocking, down 14.5%. I'm not sure, if there's something else that could have influenced that, but bottom line, definitely not a good number. And then we came in, we had U.S. flash PMI as well that came in a touch softer, but not too much. All right, Asian session. Once again, we get, kind of a bit of muted reaction. We've got Shanghai and the Nikkei that are down, as well as the Kospi, but then we've got the Hang Seng up a bit and Australia up a bit. So it's just, we just, every day it seems to be kind of a total mixed, just benign reaction to anything, that's happened previously in U.S. trade action, and really just a major disconnect right now going on in a lot of different asset classes. Lots of different correlations that are starting to really break down at the moment. So kind of has to make your ears prick up and take note of what's going on, and realize that this is, there are some disconnections that are starting to happen here. We also had the reports of the People's Bank of China withdrawing more liquidity from the market, and that, I think, is what gave us a late sell-off there in China. So, that's kind of surprising. I know it's a rumor, but it's very surprising considering, we just had some recent stimulus there. All right, moving on. Just a look at a chart here. This is the Fed's balance sheet and policy target rates. You can see there, and we just the reason why I was showing this here is really not nothing new and surprising here, but we got to remember that even though, yes, we're tapering the rate of asset purchases, but the bottom line is the Fed is still injecting liquidity on a month-to-month basis. So that is still going on. It hasn't stopped. We haven't started to level off from that yet. We're just the ascent is going to start to slow a bit, and that's basically what we're looking at. So just keep that in mind. Other thing is, we had a 6-day winning streak in the S&P 500 going into yesterday, and it's really looking like it's going to shape up as per usual. As you can see there, all the other 6-day winning streaks. We've got, how many is that? About 9 6-day winning streaks there in a row, going from 2009 all the way to 2012, and every single one of those 6-day winning streaks, the 7th day was in the red, and then in all but 2, the next 5 days, the market was actually higher. So, I think that's we're showing some pretty high probabilities. In the other days where we've had longer than 6-day winning streaks, you can see out here we've continued on to even higher probabilities of having the next 5 days in the markets being up. So 85.7% of the time. Really interesting chart there. And I really think it kind of speaks volumes about patterns, and that's the reason why we like to pay attention to patterns and follow patterns, and that's simply what charts are. All right. Going into more earnings action in the States, last night we had Procter & Gamble, which is a beat on earnings per share, miss on revenue. I think shares are down a touch after hours there. We had Boeing, which is a beat on both numbers, very solid numbers out of Boeing. We had Qualcomm that was down as well after the bell. They beat on EPS, but a little bit of a miss on revenue, and they guided lower. So that was really what the one issue was. The one hidden caveat here, and the Apple numbers. I mean, a great beat. I think caught a lot of people wrong-sided. A lot of people were expecting a potential miss, and I think a lot of people were potentially short going into those earnings and got their faces ripped off. But in Apple, you've got. They didn't really guide so well, and they're always cautious in their guidance. But they also, but it still, I think, was they didn't guide all that well. There's a couple of that, and that really kind of seems to be a piece of the theme of what's been happening as through U.S. earnings action so far. The earnings have actually been pretty solid, but the guidance hasn't been great. So maybe you guys are just still a little bit too cautious, but we'll keep that in mind. We've got a whole slew of more companies coming this afternoon. We've got Altria, we got Verizon, we got Caterpillar, UPS, Amazon, Microsoft, and Visa, some of the biggest names in the game. So we'll continue to take the market will continue to take its stride from earnings going forward, I would expect. All right, this morning here locally, we had tons of corporate action out. We had Life Healthcare came out with a 6-month trading update. Normalized EPS are guiding up 13 to 18%. That seems to be a little bit higher than expectations. We had MTN that came out with this quarter one sales update and really looks to be quite light. The ARPU numbers are what is really the worry there. You can see there locally, the ARPU numbers is down as much as 11.4%. I mean, that's just a monster number. It just seems so high. Nigeria also down 3.2%. Iran got a boost, but I mean, it's maybe 10% of their business or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So this is it's definitely a weak sales update from MTN. From our side. Anglo's also had its quarter one sales update. Sorry, I don't have all the comparables here for you. There's just too much to look at this morning. We had export metallurgical coal numbers up 31%, thermal coal numbers up 14%, copper up 18, nickel up 48, and diamonds up 18. Iron ore was also up 10 from the Kumba side of Anglo's. I'm not 100% sure what expectations were, but I know that due to some of the export numbers look like out of iron ore, there are really big worries going into this number because the export numbers have been soft as of the first quarter from the export side of South Africa. So if this number turns out to be better, we'll try to get you something, maybe send something out on Twitter in a little bit to tell you what was expected. If this number turns out to be better than what was expected, then you're probably going to see a sell-off in some of the others, the ARIs and the Exaros of the world, and some of those kind of guys are probably going to get sold today in response to that because we've seen that Kumba's not soft, therefore the others will probably sell. I'm not saying that Kumba was soft, but or Kumba was better than expected, but we'll get you something to compare it to on Twitter in a little bit. Amplat's quarter one sales update, platinum obviously down 39% on the back of the strike. I don't think there's any surprises there. Sibanye also with its quarter one production up 11%, all-in costs of 365,000 rand per kilogram, net debt 748 million after divvies, and outlook for production the 6 months ending in June will be 21,500, and all-in cost projection to drop by 5,000 rand per kilogram. So, all right, and then we also had Clicks, which is out with first half numbers as well. It looks like headline earnings per share a touch soft, but the revenue numbers maybe a touch better. So, moving on into market data today. All right, we had South Korea that had GDP numbers that were a hair better. They call South Korea the canary in the coal mine, so you can take what you want out of that. We've got French manufacturing confidence. We've got all the IFO numbers out of Germany at 10 o'clock. Those have been quite important lately. Mario Draghi is going to be speaking at 11 o'clock today, so that'll be something to watch as well. We've got local PPI. The CPI numbers were hot yesterday. Really had almost no impact on on the interest rate sensitive stocks, which is incredibly surprising. These PPI numbers I think are going to be probably very important today, and I mean you just can't last forever running this kind of these kind of inflation numbers. And then we've got durable goods, initial jobless claims, and Bloomberg Consumer Comfort out in the States later. All right, let's get into the maps. Okay, obviously that portion of the call was quite long, and we're going to keep the other portion quite short. Let's jump into the maps here. Okay, the first thing that we'll actually have a look at is going to be the ALSI. Let's just zoom this forward a little bit. We showed this yesterday. We talked about us breaking out above 44,000. Yesterday's action into the close was actually quite concerning. You can see we came back down and basically at a point it dropped 44,000, and we really closed. Let me just forgotten exactly where we closed. We closed just above the 44,000 level, and it was very unconvincing action into the close of the session. Obviously, you can see this morning we're trading up at 44,200 at the moment on the back of more or less Facebook and Apple numbers. I personally don't think that Apple and Facebook are going to have any impact on our market, seeing as how Tencent right now is up roughly 0.25% in Hong Kong. That's the only share that I can really see that have any impact on our market that would be significantly affected by Facebook and Apple earnings beats. Excluding those, we had a relatively weak session last night, so I wouldn't be surprised to see us start to retrace a little bit of this morning's gain. I think this is important. This is really important because yesterday looked like a fail. If you also get the same sort of action this morning and look and feel like a fail, and we can drop and close below 44,000, I think that could actually be a very important reversal. Be 2 days in a row where we potentially failed, and I think that this is really key. So we're going to have a close look at this today and monitor it very closely. All right. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at here is Exoro. Exoro. I wanted to show this one because of the Kumba numbers this morning. You can see here really. Kind of been making a bit of a broadening flag to an extent, kind of bouncing up here off of the last retest of these lows. I really think that there's a very high likelihood that we're going to come down and retest these lows again. I mean, from this looks like we're dropping out the bottom of that pattern a little bit. Like we said, we know that the iron ore numbers were soft. From a South African point of view, so if what we compare Kumba's numbers to are in line or better, then I think this one will suffer this morning. All right, CCO, we'll have a look here. This thing making a bit of a monster flag over the past 2.5 months, and really kind of 2 days ago just popped its head up above this around the 60 level. It didn't fully test the breakout point, which is down at 58 and change, but it got within basically a rand of that number. I think that's really important, and I think that this thing can kind of hang on to the 60 level. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing really run hard and even come up and test the highs sometime soon. Steinhoff really made a beautiful move up through resistance yesterday, and you can see there breaking out beautifully, based over the last month and a half around the 50.5 level. 50 and a half, 51 level. We broke out there yesterday, kind of pulled back a little bit off of the highs into the close. So we didn't actually make a new closing high, I don't believe. I think the previous closing high was here at 54.45. So we did make a new closing high by 5 cents. And I think Steinhoff, nice little breakout here, probably giving us a target of up to around maybe 58 and change. And that's it for today, guys. Keeping it short and sweet on the charting portion.